I see a question from Ms. Bonham.
I know. Well, you presented last week to a special budget
Yeah.
for this capital outlay. What is the future for that?
I think we need to continue to discuss that. I think it's something we need to look at in the future because we do have approximately $26.5 million of deferred maintenance and bigger projects that need to be done. Of course, $5 million is a lot of money, but when you start backing out debt services and buses and vehicles and equipment and all the other items that are just operational kind of things you have to do every year, it leaves you with approximately $3.5 million for projects, and we have about $26.5 million in requests, so you can do the math. It's difficult. So to catch up, I presented to the board last time a special option to look at. I presented that to the county commissioners today, too. It went over like, phew. But I did find out some additional information that probably put that off at least for another year of discussion, and that is the bonding or the amount of debt service that we can accumulate in the county. There's a limit on that, and the direct placement up to $10 million a year is included in any other bonds or anything we sell. So the bonds we're selling this year would include that $10 million, so you couldn't do it. Now, we could come back and look at other options, which are COPS, but it takes longer and takes more time and is a little more expensive to do a COPS. So I would continue to discuss this. I think it's a very good intellectual exercise. We need to continue to look at it and plan for the future. But this year I would propose that we stick to our traditional budget, and we'll continue to chip away at these things.
We defer to your expertise in that department.
Yes, sir.
You're exactly right. It pretty much went over like a ton of bricks as far as doing that, and I understand this late of the year. This is what we'll have to do. I appreciate how well you keep everything in order and what you do with the dollar. Just thank you for putting it all together.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed capital outlay budget as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do we have to add barring any external, internal catastrophes, or just the way
We
it
build
is?
in contingency.
Build in contingency?
Hopefully that will, but you never know when you may have something like,
Which could happen,
Guilford had the fire that burned a building, so.
the whole building.
But we do have insurance for that, but insurance doesn't cover it all. So you have to have some contingencies and backup plans.
Question.
All right, all those, Mr. Johnson, Jim? No, sir, go ahead. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. Thanks. Did you have a comment?
Just on field trips, you've got a handout there in your packet. Last week, at the Cal meeting, we did look at a upcoming international trip, and Ms. Haynes had asked me to provide the board a little more information on that particular trip. And so the packet that's coming by your place right now, we was able to pull that together today for you. This is a trip to China for our students, along with 5 chaperones this June. This trip is scheduled for June the 12th through June the 25th. The children will actually be leaving to go to China, and the timing of this trip is coinciding with the schools still being in session in China. So they will be visiting several of the schools that we are partnering with and that will be sending students to us this August for a year-long experience. And then they're also going to be serving as ambassadors for Iredell-Statesville schools as we recruit more students for the short-term stay, which we hope to do in February of 2017. You can see the itinerary that is attached to your worksheet there, and you can see the cities that they will be visiting, along with a timetable. And there is a list of the students that have been selected to go on the trip. That's the last page there, along with the schools that they'll be representing. And I think this is just a great cross-section of students from our entire district. So all parts of the county will be represented. The cost of this trip is $3,500 per participant, but there will be no cost to the Iredell-Statesville schools. And the way we plan to pay for this, Tower Bridge gives the first 15 students free accommodations and travel arrangements. The other 9 students we will be paying for out of the proceeds of the partnership when it comes to fruition later this summer. And so we have approximately 50 long-term students that will be coming back to us in August, and they will be paying tuition of $10,500. And those 9 students, along with our 5 chaperones, their portion of the trip will be paid for out of the proceeds. You'll also notice that Tower Bridge has invited 2 of our community members to go, and they're listed as item 32 and 33. They're one of our faith-based partners, and their trip is being paid for by Tower Bridge. And they are not representing Iredell-Statesville schools. They are going as the guests of Tower Bridge. So be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have about this trip. We're very excited about it. This has been a long-term vision of mine that we could send our teachers and our students abroad and to broaden their perspective about the world and to bring that knowledge back and share it throughout our school district.
Just to clarify, why is the 9 that were added, why did we add 9?
Well, Tower Bridge will fund 15, and then they tell you you can send as many as you want to send. We're choosing to broaden ours just a little bit because this year we are the first school system in the eastern United States to be participating in this, but we will not be anymore. A lot of other school systems have heard about this and they want to get on board with it, including some of our neighbors. So we will now be in competition with other school systems to market ourselves and to market this program abroad. So we want to make a very, very strong statement and show our support for the program while our folks are there in China.
I think it's going to be an amazing experience for them. And that just one fault, we kind of call it Jennifer McLean. She's a female. You got her under a male under this sheet because I know Phil won't like that if you house her with a bunch of guys. So
Promise we won't do that.
yes, it's just something to check.
Yes, thank you.
I know I missed it, but why is this one in yellow?
No reason. Maybe that's the end of our list. It's the 29th slot for us.
Joseph Daniel in yellow.
Why is it highlighted?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just the end of the line, that's what I
end
said.
of the line, is that it? That's
Right.
all? So
Yeah,
we
no-
could go if we
no
have a
particular-
passport and 3,500?
Sir?
So we could go if we have a passport and 3,500? No.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us 10, you said 10 additional, 25 students at first, but now
There's
it's
9 additional students.
only, last week we had 25, you said 25 students and 5.
There's 24 students
24
actually
students,
going.
okay.
And 5 chaperones, 3 teachers and 2 principals.
I thought maybe somebody dropped out.
Mr. Johnson, one interesting thing that happened is the U.S. Postal Service, the lady that's the postmistress,
Yes.
learned about this and on her own created a day, and I think it was a Saturday a couple
Saturday.
weeks ago, and she invited all of the students to come in one right after another and get all their passport work done at that time. So that was and it apparently went extremely well, and
Yes.
the parents were really pleased for that opportunity because not very many of them had passports going into the program.
Right. This is a much bigger deal than we give it credit for. So this is really placing our school system on the map internationally. And we have received a lot of community support for
Great trip.
this. So we're very proud of it.
I'm sure it is.
Cheap rate, 3,500.
But we would like to get a vote on this since it is an international trip, if you would approve this.
I make a motion that we allow this field trip to, through Tower Bridge to, as it presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
barring any political unrest, I suppose,
Yeah.
just in case, you never can tell.
About North Korea, what about China?
If we're ready to vote, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our open agenda tonight. We now move on to the administration portion. We have public comment. We have 3 people who have signed to speak. We have first, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, but I believe it says Ryan Pagarsh, to speak about the Iredell County Sports Hall of Fame. If you will, I think most everybody's familiar with our process, but just so we can be consistent and fair to everyone, I'll ask first if you'll state your name and the topic you're speaking about again, and then keep your comments to about 3 minutes or less, and we will take your comments into consideration. Probably will not respond back as a board tonight, but we appreciate your interest in speaking with us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board of Education and Mr. Brady Johnson. Ryan Pegarsh with the Iredell County Sports Hall of Fame. I'm the executive director. And we have our inaugural class, and our induction ceremony is going to be May 23rd. And you guys received an email from me last week, and I don't know if you guys have read it, but in this initial class of the Iredell County Sports Hall of Fame, we have 5 former Iredell-Statesville Schools employees. We have 6 former students. And the list goes on. Vincent Smith, Jerome Henderson, J.R. Sweezy is the Mooresville Graded Schools, Emily Johnson, if you know her from Statesville, Emily Johnson Murphy now, Sherry Cash, Paul Brindle, Herm Starrett, Gene Abercrombie, Herb Samsel, Bill Mayhew, Neil McGahee, and then the one, the only, Harold Johnson is going to be known as the community outreach. The other thing with the Iredell County Sports Hall of Fame is we get to honor a high school senior from every single high school in the county. That includes Pine Lake Prep, that includes Mooresville Graded, and it also includes Statesville Christian School. Each high school senior is nominated by their athletic director. So we get all their statistics, get everything they need to know about them, and our voting members of the committee, which is 18 voting members, will vote on a male and female athlete of the year. And tonight I'm here to invite you guys to come to that. It is $25 a ticket or $180 for a table of 8. And this is by some of the board members asking me to come and present to you guys. So I would like for you guys to be there. We would recognize you guys as you guys come, because it is Iredell-Statesville Schools is highly represented in this first inaugural class. It is May 23rd. Reception starts at 6 o'clock, and the dinner starts at 6:30. So it is a dinner included.
The Civic Center.
It is at the Civic Center.
I'd like to ask, since you mentioned you're the executive director, how did this come about?
So when I graduated from South Iredell High School in 2010, I went on to Lenoir-Rhyne, and I got to sit on the Catawba County Sports Hall of Fame committee while I was at Lenoir-Rhyne, and I was also on the Lenoir-Rhyne Sports Hall of Fame with their athletic department. And I said, if I ever go back to Iredell County, this is my first duty. And when Billy Buck Blevins gave me the opportunity at the radio station, I said, can I do this? And he said, you have full reign. And then we got a committee of 18 represented from every single high school and former high schools that were in this county. So we have everything, and there is actually some employees of Iredell-Statesville Schools that are on the committee.
Well, I commend you for the ones that were chosen in this first group. That is an outstanding group from the county. I mean, these people are people that a lot of us know and know personally and have known for a long time, and that they show up on a list like that I didn't even know was being generated, I think is phenomenal. It is a great group.
And I will say, if there's no name on here that you guys know of in Iredell-Statesville Schools, they may have been nominated or they may have not been nominated. So please turn in nominations in the years to come. We want to make this a yearly thing.
You know, I'm assuming it's a year, there'll be another chance for other people.
Yes, sir. Each year, after this first year, we'll induct 7 every single year.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is James Hogan.
Good evening, folks. My name is James Hogan. I am here on behalf of our Schools First and the good folks of Iredell-Statesville Schools, who are students or other interested parties. I assure you, I'm never going to be in the Athletics Hall of Fame in this county, unless marching band is somehow considered, which it could be. I wave my arms a lot. I'm here a little bit to preach to the choir in the sense that this is something I want to speak about, a piece of state legislation entitled House Bill 539 that I know that you're aware of, and it is something that our Schools First is taking a serious look at and would like to help make other folks aware of, and so I wanted to speak quickly to it tonight. Fund $8 that you all use in your budgeting process are special funds that include park grant, the impact grant, pre-K funding, and other unrestricted grant funding. And House Bill 539, which is currently sitting in Raleigh and could be voted upon at any time, seeks to take a portion of those dollars and award them to charter schools. Child nutrition funding is also at risk, even though charter schools are not required to provide child nutrition services to their students. Of course, $1.4 billion in federal funding is currently at risk because of another House bill, but that's a different matter. Now, we at OS1 think that charter schools have a good purpose, and we're not against charter schools philosophically. And we do understand that they need adequate funding to provide a sound education to their constituents. And we urge our state representatives to find appropriate new ways of funding those schools, and not by scraping dollars off the top of LEAs that are already trying to do more with less, as you are well aware of. House Bill 539 targets funds that are necessary to the successful operation of Iredell-Statesville schools. And we are advocating that you, as Board of Education members, and also those in our community, reach out and contact your or our collective state representatives. As I understand it, this is a bill that was passed last fall by the state Senate. It was referred to the House, but not voted upon, and was tabled until this short session, and it could be called to the floor for a vote at any time. I don't know what the likelihood of that is, but I do know that our legislature has a history of moving very quickly, and it is prudent for us to be speaking out now about a bill that could harm and otherwise impact your ability to fund our school system in an immediate way, as this bill would take effect July 1 of this year and affect funding for 2016-17. So thank you for listening, and help us do our part to ensure that House Bill 539 doesn't become a law.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Beth Packman.
I'm sure Beth made here. She texted that she was tied up.
Okay. Well, I'll ask any other members of the audience wish to speak before the board. Now I'll ask if there are any board member comments.
Yes, I have a couple comments. One, I would like to thank the superintendent and, what's his name back here in the back of the room? Kenny Miller. My brain just went numb. For coming to our Raider Day. It was highly successful up there. We've really been energized up there with our new coach and our new athletic directors. I think a lot of the kids from the middle schools and feeder schools were there. Had a lot of activities, and I really appreciate their support coming to Raider Day and that. The second thing is a friend of mine from up in the northern end of the county that's working with the schools, Ben Shelton, Dr. Ben Shelton, he asked me to announce to y'all and invite all you board members. Power Cross is having a dinner benefit, and it's on Thursday, May the 19th at 6:30. And I'll be glad to share you the RSVP number and the stuff that's there, pass this along. And I think they're one of our strong partners, and if you have opportunity to go to that, I'd like to see as many board members we could attend. There is no cost to the dinner. If somebody has a question about that, they just want us to be in attendance to see what their facility and things that are there. So that's the only things I had.
Max, what was that date again?
That was May the 19th, Thursday, May the 19th at 6:30. Yeah, so at their facility on West Front Street.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to tell everyone that's still here in the board that this is an exciting time of year for Iredell-Statesville schools. We've had a lot of our elementary schools are having programs, and I encourage everybody to go to any of those they can. It's so exciting to see the kids out there performing for you. Wake Up Ag Day was a huge success. The ag programs, is Todd still here, our CTE director? Our CTE programs, the ag program is just amazing, and they took all our kindergarten students, and some of them from some of the private schools were there, and that's just a super neat program, and I'm so proud of our system. Mr. Johnson, y'all seeing that this is done every year. We had simulated accidents before the prom at South Iredell and West Iredell. This was huge. It was so realistic. I want to thank all the EMS services, the fire departments, the sheriff's and police departments that work with all that. It was really amazing how much effort some of our SROs and our school people went to try to help. And it's like one of the ladies from the insurance company that helped put it on said, if we just save one accident, one life, all this has been worthwhile. But I went to the one at South Iredell. Hats off to all the staff at South, their administration, putting it on. There's some wonderful, wonderful things going on at all our schools. And I do hope that you get out and see all you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board member comments?
I just had one other thing. I know a lot of the schools are looking for proctors this time of year. I encourage anyone who can sit still for 2 hours at a time to volunteer for that. It's greatly needed.
Senior projects too.
Senior projects.
Let's back up just a second. Beth Fackman, would you like to speak? I understand you were held up before you got here.
I apologize, but running children everywhere this evening. So good evening. I will follow up Mr. Page's positive notes. First, to tell you, Mr. Page, that my daughter did all of the prosthetic makeup at South Iredell High School and made those children look like they'd been in Iraq and loved every minute of it. But I had sent Kelly an email this afternoon, and I don't think I got it here in time. My 5th grader at Woodland Heights today had a really fun experience, and it's a really positive learning experience. His teacher sent us pictures of the kids working in class, actually studying and preparing for science EOGs, and I wanted to tell you how they did it. They worked in small collaborative groups with laptops and a website called Kahoot It, where they get to create games and puzzles for their classmates in order to study the content for their science EOGs. And what impressed me is that they were learning things that they didn't even realize they were learning how to do, and they were enjoying it. First, because they were working in small collaborative groups, they're learning teamwork skills, how to research together, how to determine what is important information together, how to make decisions together. They were scanning their text to ascertain the most important and critical data, which that's a really hard thing as a 5th grader, is to figure out, what do I need to know? They were reviewing the science content itself while they were looking to create these questions and puzzles. They were working on laptops, which were a whole new set of computer skills, especially for that age group. And they were creating puzzles and games for their classmates, figuring out the best way to ask questions, which I know after talking to many teachers is one of the most difficult things to do, is how do you prepare a test and how do you ask the questions the right way? And they were having a lot of fun while learning and reviewing. So I'm sorry I couldn't get the pictures here to you this evening, but I wanted to thank you all for making the laptops possible and for all that you do, despite what our North Carolina legislature is trying to do to our public schools. I appreciate your all support and all that you do for our children and all that our staff here does for our children, and just what a great, to end on a great positive learning experience from my child's day today. So, anything?
Thank you.
Any questions? No?
Thank you.
Your daughter will make it as a professional. That was, I'm gonna share these pictures I've got with the rest of the board. That was outstanding work.
Actually, the insurance woman from Liberty Mutual asked for her phone number and asked if she'd be willing to do it again at other schools.
Well, the poor people driving by and were freaking out. They were stopping and running. That's the only thing I wish we'd have done. I wish we'd have had some signs up saying this is a simulation, because it really scared a lot of people. I mean, it looked that real.
Thank you all for the comments. Mr. Johnson, your turn, I guess, for superintendent comment.
Yes, sir, and I'll keep this very brief. I would like to point out to everybody, and you've probably heard by now, that the New Schools office in Raleigh has closed. New Schools was an initiative that started many, many years ago with a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we were fortunate that we got selected early to participate in that work, which supported the creation of VPAC and CCTL. The closing of the office is something that was decided at the state level beyond our control, and it did touch off a little bit of a panic with the parents and the students there at our two early colleges. I did send a letter home to them and just explained that the closing of the New Schools office in no way will impact either of our early colleges. In the early days, we did receive funding from them, but we are currently not receiving any funding from New Schools. They do provide staff development for the teachers there at the two early colleges, but I'm sure that we will find a new venue to take care of that staff development. I was asked by a reporter today to make a comment on House Bill 2, and so I had swore a long time ago that I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but the question that I was asked today was, in this battle between the federal government and the state government, what impact could that potentially have on the Iredell-Statesville schools if federal funding were to be withheld? I jokingly said we would have to close our doors, but it wouldn't be quite that bad, but it would be significant. If we lost our federal funding, that's about $11 million, and there's two budgets that will be greatly impacted by that. One is our Title I budget, and the other is our exceptional children. So I told the reporter that I was speaking to earlier today, I just hope and pray that cooler heads prevail and that these two parties can get together and work out something and compromise. We do have transgender children in our school system, and for many years we have made reasonable accommodations for those children, and it has worked very well in our school system. And so one of the things that I hope that all federal and state officials will allow us to do is give us the benefit of the doubt and continue to allow us to make reasonable accommodations for our students, and we've got this. I want to thank Mr. Hogan for his comments on House Bill 539. If you'll go to our website, we posted some information about that last week. There is an animated cartoon that does an excellent job of explaining this very complex funding bill. And I hate that I didn't think to play that for you tonight, but it is on our home page, and it really does a really simple but good job of explaining how disastrous this potentially could be to public schools. And so I think Mr. Hogan's advice is well taken. We do need to reach out to our members of the General Assembly and encourage them to take a hard look at the way they're potentially going to fund charter schools from your Fund 8. Just an update real quickly about the Achievement School District. That was a piece of legislation that I called your attention to last month. Unfortunately, it did move out of committee, and it may be considered and voted on now. The Achievement School District would create a 116th school system in North Carolina. They would hire a superintendent. That superintendent would hire a staff and take over the 5 lowest performing schools in our state. And what I've been trying to convince folks to do is to think about that for just a little minute, because it certainly does impact the authority of local boards of education. and takes that control out of the hands of local voters. It does create a new bureaucracy there at the state level. What I would recommend that they do is take the $1.5 million that this new district is going to be funded at and give that money to those 5 schools. Let those 5 schools decide how to use that funding to impact the performance of their children at the local level. Mr. James, thank you for mentioning the Capital Improvement Club. We were there Saturday, and I'll just say the Capital Improvement Club at North Iredell High School is absolutely amazing. There are 2 projects that they partnered with us on this year. I wish each school had a Capital Improvements Club, but there was a barn that was built up there for the FFA program and a baseball, softball complex. And just remarkable things can happen when people work together and pool their resources. So we're very proud of that. We did our presentation today to the county commissioners. I want to thank Dr. Cash for being there and Mr. Page. My takeaway was that it was a good presentation. I think they listened very intently. We did get a lot of questions today about the funding that we're requesting for our low-performing schools. So I do think that's going to get some consideration. And then they also had a lot of questions about our local supplement for our teachers, and they were keenly interested in trying to help us address that issue of funding for our local teachers, for all of our teachers, all of our employees. Dr. Miller and I went into that meeting today and told them that we had 2 brand new ideas that we wanted to present to them. And so we planted the seed with these 2 ideas, and then we walked out the door. It was presented at the last few minutes of our presentation. But we did talk to the commissioners today about the direct placement, the $27 million in needs that we have, and how we could potentially use direct placement to fund that project and let the county front that money to us and then make payments from our capital budget. And although our timing, we ran out of time today, I do think that they have that information in their hands, and it won't happen this year, but I think the seed has been planted. And we did just, in a friendly way, say this is an idea that needs to be discussed. And I really expect them to bring that back and have a discussion with us about that. The other idea that we gave them today is over the years, we continue to struggle with our current expense budget. And I get the strong sense from the county commissioners that they want to do more for us, but they do have a finite amount of money, and they have tremendous needs outside of supporting the public schools. They've got lots of other departments that they have to fund. And so we did give them a map of Iredell County along with all of our neighboring counties. There's 9 of those. I think Iredell is probably the county in North Carolina that has the most neighboring counties that border a county. And we pointed out that there's only 3 counties that border us: Yadkin, Davie, and Lincoln County. Those are the only 3 counties that border Iredell that have not already added a 1/4 cent to their local option sales tax. And so if we were to do that here in Iredell County and put that on a ballot for this November, you know, the potential is there to raise about $4.7 million annually. And that money could be earmarked for the 3 public school systems, us, Mooresville Graded, and Mitchell Community College. And it would give the commissioners then tremendous relief in this debate that happens each year about this time. And are we funding our schools adequately? So I do think those are 2 ideas that we were able to at least plant the seed today, and we do look forward to continuing that discussion. As Dr. Miller said a while ago about the direct placements, it does deserve an intellectual look and a good discussion. And I think the sales tax does as well. But thank you very much. Appreciate your support.
Mr. Johnson, could I say one thing about the meeting today? I was very pleased with the comments about our chairman. The county commissioners were very gracious to Dr. Cash, well-deserved. Other than the comment about you had more hair 16 years ago, they were very, very, very complimentary, and I was really touched by it, especially Steve Johnson. I thought he really spoke very highly of you, as did the other members, and thanking you for all the service that you've given us over the years. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I think we all do this together. I mean, I just represent our group when I'm there, but I'm really speaking for all of us. So, I appreciate it. Well, we've got announcement of other dates. May 30th will be a holiday. June 6th will be our next Committee of the Whole meeting at the ADR Education Center at 6 p.m. June 13th will be our next Board of Education meeting at the Iredell County Government Center. With that said, we again appreciate the attendance of everyone here tonight. I think the board is not quite yet finished. I think we need to go back into closed session and finish our personnel discussion. So at this point, again, we thank all of you for being here with us tonight, and I'll entertain a motion to go back into closed session.
According to the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, I make a motion that the board enter into closed session to discuss personnel and to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
A motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you all. What's your name?
And I was late because my mom's in the hospital again. Fellow for board